and they constructed it very carefully to not make it look like the Clinton campaign had paid for all of this research. And that's ultimately the FEC and the Clinton campaign settled a complaint about this payment that was hidden to Fusion GPS for doing the Oppo research, and it was paid for by the Perkins Coie law firm. And so it is a very sordid situation.
3 years after being appointed as a special counsel to investigate the origins of alleged Russian collusion with the Donald Trump campaign, John Durham's investigation is beginning to bear fruit. Or is it? This past Monday, the trial of Michael Sussmann got underway. Sussmann is a lawyer who worked at Perkins Coie, a law firm that represented and was paid by the Hillary Clinton campaign. Prosecutor Durham has charged Sussmann with a relatively simple crime, that he lied to the FBI's chief legal counsel, James Baker, when he went to the FBI to say that he was not representing any client when he revealed allegations of Russian collusion. In fact, Prosecutor Durham alleges that Sussmann was representing a client, the Clinton campaign. In testimony Thursday morning, the defense asked for a mistrial, alleging the government referenced some earlier statements from Sussmann, even though Sussmann has not yet decided whether he will testify in his own defense. The judge denied the defense's motion for mistrial. Some conservative commentators appear to be positioning themselves for acquittal. The enemy of Durham's prosecution may be the alleged collusion scheme's sheer complexity and its many moving parts and people. Another difficulty for Prosecutor Durham, convincing a D.C. jury of Sussmann's guilt. In the 2016 election, over 95% of the two-party vote in the District of Columbia went to Hillary Clinton. Joining us now is Matthew Whitaker, the acting Attorney General for over a year during the Trump administration, the tumultuous year after which Senator Jeff Sessions resigned from that post, under fire for recusing himself from the Russia collusion scandal. Matthew, thanks very much for joining us.
Hey, good to see you, Doug.
Will John Durham get a conviction?
This is a tough case. It's an easy case on the one hand, but a tough case on the other hand, because the tough part is you're in front of a District of Columbia jury, which is notoriously a left-leaning area that they're pulling those jurors from. And, you know, obviously, if you're following the case as closely as I am, you've already seen that both Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, and their names have been mentioned. We had Mark Elias on the stand yesterday. And it's, but the simple case is that it's just a false statement to the FBI. Did Mr. Sussmann admit to Jim Baker when he met with him that he was representing a client or not? And I think we're finding out today that he did not disclose that. And in the fact, setting up the message that set up the meeting, Doug said, I'm not representing any client. Ultimately, he billed his time with Jim Baker at the FBI to the Hillary Clinton campaign and his, through his law firm.
Yeah, on that note of difficult to get a conviction in the District of Columbia, 95% of D.C. voters went for Hillary Clinton in 2016. So assuming, you safely assume that probably the entire jury pool voted for Hillary Clinton and might be skeptical of the case. But to the bigger point, all of this appears to be a case, even whether he gets a conviction or not, of opposition research just run amok. I know that opposition research is a really sordid business. I've had political consultants tell me how that game works, that he can call the opposing candidate's opposition research team and say, look, we've got this dirt on your guy, and I know you've got this dirt on our guy. How about we call a truce on these two issues, and I'll just stick to the dirt on this guy, and you can stick to that dirt, but let's call it truce. It's unbelievable how it works, and I think most Americans are completely unaware of it.
They are, unless you've been in the barrel, and as a candidate, I have. What I see in this opposition research that happened in the presentation to the FBI, they were trying to cause either the appearance of an FBI investigation or actually start an FBI investigation. That there was a connection between the Donald Trump campaign and the Russian government, which there never was established, and that's what ultimately the Mueller report demonstrated. But to your point, it's not only a dirty business, but when it's weaponized in this manner and not just put on campaign ads that we all ignore and drowned out ultimately, this was used to approach the FBI in hopes that they would launch an investigation and detrimentally hurt Donald Trump and his campaign chances. And really it was more successful than they could have ever imagined. This piece that Sussmann presented ultimately didn't lead to it, but it was just really it was one of the needles, one of the straws on the camel's back that ultimately broke, and you ended up with the Mueller investigation.
You can make a very strong case that the Clinton campaign was absolutely genius in the construction of this thing, or evil genius, depending on your perspective. But they separated themselves from this opposition research by hiring the law firm Perkins Coie. So that's one firewall they had there. Perkins Coie in turn hired Fusion GPS, another firewall, which in turn paid former British spy Christopher Steele, another firewall. So they have these degrees of separation which sort of immunize them from culpability.
You're exactly right, and they constructed it very carefully to not make it look like the Clinton campaign had paid for all of this research, and that's ultimately the FEC and the Clinton campaign settled a complaint about this payment that was hidden to Fusion GPS for doing the Oppo research, and it was paid for by the Perkins Coie law firm. And so it is a very sordid situation. But, Doug, the thing that I always remember is the whole purpose of this and the whole timing of this was because Hillary Clinton was suffering with the 30,000 emails. And if you remember Jim Comey's famous press conference where he declined to take the case, it was the most active decline I've ever seen, and it was we could talk about that all day long. Some of these things that were happening at the time and surrounding it, I think we forget and we lose the context of why Sussmann and Perkins Coie were so desperate to get the FBI engaged in looking into this, what was ultimately fabricated and completely false information that was presented to the FBI.
And it's truly remarkable. I think it's unique in American history how mainstream media just went with this for 1, 2, 3, 4 years of the entire Trump administration. And even Pulitzer Prizes, journalism's most exclusive, unique prize, was awarded for coverage of this sort of stuff, which proved to be ultimately false. How much did it impede the Trump agenda during those 4 years with the almost monomaniacal focus on Russia collusion?
Yeah. Well, Doug, I had a front row seat to that, having been at the Department of Justice for over a year with General Sessions and then ultimately taking over after he left. And I can tell you every day it was hamstringing our agenda. It's incredible what we actually were able to accomplish from a policy perspective, whether it's securing the southern border. It was a great economy at the time, all sorts of things that we were able to accomplish. But at the same time, there was no doubt that it was a distraction, especially for the Department of Justice, but I'm sure for the White House as well.
Take me inside the Department of Justice. There's been all kinds of talk about how politicized it has become. How politicized is it?
Well, I think all you have to do is look at the Attorney General and what Merrick Garland has done. If you think about his launching and sending a memo to all of his federal prosecutors to start, looking and prioritizing parents' protests at school board meetings. That's one. The second priority that he announced from the dais at the Department of Justice was that unruly airline passengers complaining about mask mandates should be a priority of the Department of Justice. And you just go down the line. And if you think about, when a judge in Florida finally bravely said these airline mask mandates and transportation mask mandates are unconstitutional, unnecessary, and the CDC overreached its authority under its statutes, this Department of Justice immediately appealed that ruling and is going to fight it out in the 11th Circuit. So it's all of these things and so much more that you look at the Department of Justice, and it's unfortunately probably more politicized now than it was even under Attorney General Holder in the Obama administration, which is saying something. And my heart breaks for the men and women of the DOJ that I know very well that just want to do their job, put bad guys in prison, prosecute, criminals, and ultimately protect the American people from, acts of terrorism. So it's a very difficult time at the Department of Justice and with this leadership team in place.
Matthew Whitaker, the acting Attorney General for over a year during the Trump administration. Appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.